Hello, everyone. My name is Alexis Schallenberger. For this project, I interviewed my pawpaw. He is in his 70s. I interviewed him because I felt like he really is good at remembering things that happened in the past, and he could probably tell you a whole day's worth of information. It's crazy how much he really knows. Um, but I just felt like he would be a good candidate, and I really wanted to learn more about him, which I really did learn a lot of stuff that I didn't know before. So I guess I got the information I wanted. Um, Throughout this presentation, I talk about Erikson and also Bandura and his social learning theory. Um, for Erikson, I chose the stage 6, which is intimacy versus isolation. During this stage, it's all about love, really, and building relationships. And I found that it ranges from about 18, 19 to 40 years old. Um, the biggest question I found in this stage was, am I able to love and be loved back? Am I able to find myself in the stage before and then come into this stage and try to understand other people, really? Um, I think it's important for us to first be able to understand ourselves and love ourselves before we can begin to understand others and try to love others for who they are. It's really about building relationships. If one doesn't build that intimacy in this stage, they can begin isolation, and that's not good, and we want people to be able to build those relationships. So I really felt that this stage was a good stage to try to explain my grandpa's life in this stage. So some important experiences he went throughout the stage. He met his wife. That was kind of in high school, but I felt like that was a good social interaction, so I put that into here. Um, They had two boys, which is my dad, Scott, and my uncle, Tom, which I think that's probably one of the most important. Um, my grandpa became really a part of the church, and he was very involved. He was in youth ministry and wanted to help these individuals grow in their spiritual ways and try to build a spiritual relationship. Um, he also served as a chairman for events that took place in Myerstown, which is where he lives now. Um, this includes like being a part of parades and like different projects that happen within the community, which is really cool. I never knew that about him. But and he also went to Penn State. Um, which is where I went, so that's pretty cool. Um, all these all these events, I really think helped him build social relationships because he was involved in all these community events. Um, so moving on to the difficult challenges and accomplishments that he had. Um, Throughout his life, he had to go through several jobs, and he didn't know if he was going to have security of his money and like have an income to support him and my nana. Um, he went through, I believe, three different jobs. The first one, he knew he wasn't going to be able to accomplish anything, so he felt that it was necessary to go out and find something else that he would be able to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Um, so he went to another job and he was there for a while and went up to supervisor, and then they let him go, and then he went to another company and sort of the same thing happened. So I feel like that really was a challenge, and he told me he went through a time of depression, which is really gonna hinder your social interactions since you're not out interacting and trying to find a job. So I really think that's a huge challenge in his life. um some of the accomplishments would be completing college. Not everyone completes college, and I believe he said that his father was the only other one in his family to complete college, so that's a huge accomplishment to me. Um, being able to serve as chairman in Myerstown, being able to be a part of the community, and being able to um, build those social relationships in the community. I think that really that's gonna help build him up in the stage. And meeting his wife, Diana, of course, that's a huge accomplishment. Um, they've been together for a really long time, and they're still pretty happy. Um, so the psychosocial crisis within my stage that I chose would be if the individual does not reach intimacy, they could be at risk for isolation while they move into adulthood, which means if they're not able to build those social interactions, then they're not going to be able to move on to the next they'll be able to move on to the next stage, but they're going to have trouble building social relationships in the next stage as they move further into adulthood. So you're talking into your 40s to 65 years old, and if you're not able to build social relationships, how are you going to be able to communicate with the world? Like, if you don't start to um, start to be able to build those skills to be able to go out and socially interact, I'm not sure how you're going to succeed into the next level. Um, Another thing is being able to have a sense of self to be able to move on. You really, like I said before, need to be able to love yourself, need to be able to understand yourself before you're able to move on to that next stage. Because if you don't have those things, it's really hard to understand someone else if you don't understand yourself and don't love yourself. Okay, so diversity and difference. I had a little bit of trouble with this one because I didn't really feel like there was a whole lot of diversity and difference in his life. Um, I think his younger experiences really influenced his experience later in life. We were talking about this the other day that he lived in the country where, when you live in where he lived was Kempton, there was country and there was people that lived in town. So they were called the townies. So those people were kind of like, it was kind of a clique. I wouldn't they call didn't call it that, but I sort of see it as a clique, as these people who are in town. So like they all merge together and they build relationships, where my grandpa lived in the country where it was very rare to have anyone really live around you. So he was telling me about how he would have to play by himself. He made up his own baseball game by himself because he had no one to play with, and because they had so little transportation, he wasn't really able to be involved in baseball or in any really curricular activities because he didn't have a way of transportation, which to me really probably led him to branch out more when he became appropriate age, because he didn't have those social relationships when he was younger. He really had to branch out and try to build relationships. um I really think that's what led him to be so involved in the community, because he didn't have that when he was growing up, so he had to find a way to build those social relationships so he wasn't behind. Oppression really stumped me too. What I found, the definition of oppression from the Merriam-Webster dictionary states that it is unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power. Um, the only thing that I could really think of in this stage would be his job experience, because he went from one job to another job to another job because they couldn't keep the company together. There was no real unjust or cruel exercise because that's kind of how the world works, but I really felt like that was the only thing that fell into this part, into oppression, because he went through so many jobs. Okay, so throughout my annotated bibliography, I really looked at emerging adulthood as I felt that was most appropriate for the interview. When I went through and I talked to my Pawpaw and and talked about his teenage years into his adult life, he didn't really fit into the category of emerging adulthood. Um, he kind of went to college, but right after college, he went to look for a job. So he didn't live at home. He went to look for a job and went straight into that field. So I felt like maybe when he went to college, he was kind of in that emerging adulthood stage, but right after college, he was out of it. And he knew what he wanted to do with his life. Like I mentioned before, he started out that first company. He found that it wasn't appropriate for what he wanted to do. So he felt that it was appropriate for him to find something else to do. Um, I think he really took on responsibility right away. He took it on as soon as he graduated college, he took on that responsibility. Okay, so that was Erikson. Um, Now we're going to move on to the social learning theory by Alfred Bandura. He came up with the social learning theory or social cognitive theory. He believed that people used social and cognitive skills to acquire learning. So he also believed that they were taught off positive reinforcement and negative punishment. So if someone saw someone doing something good and being reinforced for that, then they were more likely to engage in that activity. Where if someone saw someone doing something negative and they got punished for it, then that individual most likely will not be involved in that activity. Um, which I felt like this was good. This fit in. I didn't really feel like any of the other learning theories or any other theories fit into this. So social learning theory, really learning from the surroundings, learning from the people that you're around, learning from the community. Um, I felt like while my grandpa was working at the church, he built a stronger spiritual relationship through teaching. So he was positively reinforced by showing others what he truly believed in. So he took on the role that he didn't have to. He was a volunteer. He didn't get paid. He took on that role to show others what he truly believed in, and he was positively reinforced to go out and continue to teach others around him. I also think working in the community positively influenced him. He gained more confidence, and he became more confident when it came to public speaking. He explained to me that he didn't really like to talk like public publicly, probably in smaller groups, not as big. But when he became a part of this community, the chairman, he was able to speak out more because he had to be able to fix problems that were happening in the community and be able to um, put together the community events like the parades and stuff. So I really feel like that communication um, positively reinforced him and influenced him to be a better person because he was doing good for the community, so he was being positively reinforced. Um, Also in social learning theory, there's self-efficacy. Um, so in my annotated bibliography, there was a part in there that really stuck out to me when I was thinking about the learning theory. It said the emphasis is high on having a connection to the community as it supports well-being later in life. This allows the individual to develop relationships with others. Wow, that really fits in to this because being in the community and having supports really positively reinforced my grandpa. Um, I also felt like he built a lot of self-efficacy because he went through three different jobs and never gave up. He never gave up. He wanted to do better for himself. So he really taught himself to have confidence and just go with the flow. Just do what you know and it would all work out in the end. So I felt like he built that confidence from working in the community and being able to public speak. Also, from his job experience, he went from a company where he knew he needed more opportunities for advancement and he would not get through it, this company. So he knew he needed to make better choices.